Straight ahead on Falcon Weekly.
A tornado outbreak pounds the Midwest. See how people recovering and find out if the storms will affect our local forecast.
And it may cost less to feed your family this Thanksgiving. Find out how much the average Turkey Day feast will cost this year.
Plus, Neil Embry joins us for a look at sports and Auburn's miracle play against UGA. Falcon Weekly starts now. Hello and welcome to Falcon Weekly. I'm Lauren Altaffer.
And I'm Andrew Meacham. Thanks so much for joining us. 6 people are dead and thousands more are starting to clean up debris after severe weather slammed into Midwest Sunday with tornadoes, strong winds, and heavy rain.
Reporter Sharon Travis has more on the aftermath of the storm.
Our Father's watching.
Faith and fear on a Sunday in Washington, Illinois.
On earth as it is in heaven.
Elsewhere in the city, a man and his wife held each other tight in their basement as their home was being ripped apart.
We're either going to be in heaven, we're going to be in the hospital, or we're going to walk out of here and completely in the Lord's hands.
And there were more disturbing scenes across the region. Wild winds in city streets, a tornado touchdown in an open field.
Wow, it's on the ground!
Looking from above, damage as far as the eye can see. The tornado had estimated winds of 170 to 190 miles per hour, according to the National Weather Service. Authorities say at least 6 people died in Illinois.
And it is important that we see ourselves as a family, that we come together when something very dangerous and difficult and deadly happens. Everyone in Illinois wants to help the victims of these deadly tornadoes.
In Peoria, TV anchors reporting on the storms are forced to seek cover from them.
I am hearing things right now, Chuck. Yes. I think we may need to take shelter right now ourselves.
We do.
We need to go off the air.
Yeah.
We will be back when we can.
Right. We'll be right back.
68 tornado reports across the Midwest, including nearby Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Missouri. Hundreds of thousands of people are without power. I'm Shannon Travis reporting.
Now let's get a quick look at our local 3-day forecast.
Margetta Thompson joins us now. What can we expect for next week's weather, Margetta?
Well, nothing like the Midwest tornadoes at all, but and it doesn't look like we're going to have any severe weather to worry about, but at the most it's going to be a little windy tonight with a low of 40, and if we take a sneak peek at this week's forecast, looks like we're going to have a small break from the rain, but we could be in for another wet weekend. I'll have more on your 7-day forecast coming up later.
Developing news out of Florida. George Zimmerman, the man acquitted in the murder case for Trayvon Martin, is behind bars tonight. Today, police charged Zimmerman with 1 aggravated assault, domestic violence, and criminal mischief after police say Zimmerman pointed a shotgun at his girlfriend. Police have not released any more details about the arrest at this time.
Now to a controversial case in North Alabama. A convicted child rapist is not going to face any jail time. A judge sentenced the attacker, 25-year-old Austin Clem, to a total of 30 years behind bars, yet suspended that sentence, opting to send Clem to community corrections. The victim, Courtney Andrews, says she needs an explanation.
And it's like it's saying it's okay to hurt people. In Athens, Alabama, it's okay to rape someone and rape other people multiple times, and it's okay. You can still walk.
Prosecutors are questioning the legality of judge's decision. According to the defense, the State Department of Corrections can supersede the judge's order if they determine that the Clem has violated the judge's decision.
McAdory High School is making news across the nation for a controversial football banner used last weekend. The banner was held up during a game versus the Pison Valley Indians. The sign, which read, "Hey Indians, get ready to leave the Trail of Tears," went viral, making its way across Tumblr and to the front page of Reddit. McAdory principal Todd Humphreys says the person who is usually in charge of approving such signs is on maternity leave. He went on saying sincere apologies to the Native Americans and people, to anyone who was offended by the reference to the event that is a stain on our nation's past forever.
Newly released police dashboard video shows how a simple traffic stop led to police shooting at a minivan full of children. Oriana Farrell was stopped by an officer for the second time within minutes in New Mexico last month. Farrell initially resisted the officer's command to step out of the vehicle. Farrell exited the minivan, but shortly after attempted to return to the vehicle, leading to her son stepping out of the vehicle to confront the officer. After the confrontation, Farrell and her children locked themselves inside the minivan. Police backup then arrived, and an officer began beating on the vehicle window. That's when Farrell fled the scene. In response, an officer shot at the minivan full of kids as young as 6. Officers pursued Farrell in a 4-minute chase that ended in front of a hotel. The mom is charged with child abuse, fleeing from police, and a misdemeanor for possession of drug paraphernalia. Her son is charged with battery of an officer.
Washington, D.C. Health Insurance Commissioner William P. White is out of a job now, just one day after criticizing Obamacare. White had requested permission from D.C. Mayor Vincent Gray to post opposition to one of Obama's health care announcements. When he didn't receive the okay immediately, he posted it on a government website anyways, telling the mayor he had a go-ahead from his staff. Apparently, this was not true. White said he wasn't told his firing was due directly to his criticism of the healthcare rollout, but timing was hard to ignore. NASA's newest Mars probe is on its way to the Red Planet. Early this afternoon, the probe, nicknamed Maven, lifted off from Cape Canaveral. It's expected to take Maven 20 months to get to Mars and scheduled to arrive September 22, 2014. NASA hopes the Maven will help researchers learn more about the planet's climate and atmosphere. NASA says the mission will cost $671 million.
Artists from across the country are enjoying dozens of pieces of new artwork they finished at the 6th semi-annual firing of the Anagama Kiln. The artists joined UM's Dr. Scott Myers and visiting artist Richard Hirsch. The kiln cooled for a week before the ceramics could be removed. Falcon Weekly reporter Lucas Burns takes us back to when it all began.
The 40-foot kiln, tucked away behind the Student Activity Center, is the semi-annual site of a huge ceramics firing. Artists from across the country and world will gather over the next week to fire a variety of pieces. But before that can happen, Dr. Scott Meyer and his ceramics students, along with the visiting artist Richard Hirsch, will have to turn up the heat with shifts loading wood into the huge Anagama kiln. Directly behind me, Dr. Scott Myers and his students are working around the clock to keep the kiln lit for over 100 hours so that they can reach the necessary temp of 2,700 degrees. They'll do this by loading the kiln with wood just like this. Ceramics student Emily Vandermeer had this to say.
Today I am working 8:45 to 1:15, and then tonight I come back at 1 a.m. and stay until 5 a.m.
The enormous kiln, which is affectionately known as Fat Bastard, was painstakingly built by Scott Meyer and his students. Its first firing in 2002 started the university's tradition of art and experimentation.
It involves jazz in the sense of an openness to eventualities that might be unforeseen. And so with that spirit, we're going to try a series of things with our Anagama firing that, as we said, may or may not yield, but will be brand new and different based on ancient techniques.
For Falcon Weekly, this is Lucas Burns reporting.
Another member of the Kennedy family is ready to take office. See how Caroline Kennedy is following in her father's footsteps 50 years after his death.
And your Thanksgiving feast may be missing a key dish. Find out how turkey's shortage can affect this dinner tradition. Those stories and more when we return.
Welcome back to Falcon Weekly. Now for a look at news from around the world.
Falcon Weekly's Jordan Wales joins us for this week's global news.
Thanks, guys. Our first story comes from Toronto, Canada. City legislators are currently gathered to vote on the removal of most of Toronto Mayor Rob Ford's powers and budget. This motion comes after his refusal to step down after admitting to smoking crack cocaine during his term. 10 minutes into the meeting, Ford Ford charged a spectator who was shouting at him, knocking over another councilman in the way. The motion is set to reduce his budget to that of a city councilor and put the rest in control of Deputy Mayor Norm Kelly. In Japan, the delicate process of removing fuel rods from the damaged nuclear plant in Fukushima is now underway. Over the next 2 days, 22 rods will be removed. A total of more than 1,500 rods will have to be removed, which is scheduled to take over a year. 2 years ago, a massive earthquake and tsunami damaged the plant and caused 3 reactors to melt down. The disaster was the second worst nuclear accident in history behind Chernobyl. Today marks the new U.S. ambassador to Japan's first day on the job. Carolyn Kennedy arrived in Japan Friday for her swearing-in ceremony. Kennedy is the first woman to ever serve as the U.S. ambassador to Japan. Her first week on the job also marks 50 years since her father, President John F. Kennedy's assassination in Dallas, Texas. China is relaxing its one-child policy as part of an effort to improve human rights. The Chinese government is now allowing couples to have up to 2 children if one of the parents was an only child. The one-child policy that successfully slowed population growth was heavily criticized for resulting in forced abortions and fines, as well as constraining the economic growth as the working-age population has declined. And that's a look at what's happening around the world.
Thanks, Jordan. With Thanksgiving just over a week away, many people are buying all their favorite foods.
But some people and some turkey fans may have a harder time finding a big Butterball turkey. Butterball says they have a shortage of large fresh turkeys this year because some of their farmers couldn't get turkeys to plump up in time. So fresh ones over 16 pounds might be in short supply. However, Butterball says there are still plenty of turkeys for Thanksgiving. Butterball sells around 1.3 billion pounds of turkey a year. That's a 20% of the United States turkey supply. Also, Thanksgiving dinner may cost a little less this year. The American Farm Bureau Federation says this year's feast for a family of 10 is expected to cost, on average, $49.04. That's about 44 cents less than last year. The estimate includes classic Thanksgiving foods, including turkey, stuffing, and cranberries. Coming up on Falcon Weekly, McDonald's drive-thru time may be speeding up a little. We'll tell you how their drive-thru is changing and how it could help you get through the line faster.
And still ahead, see how one child's wish transformed the city of San Francisco into a living comic book overnight. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Falcon Weekly. McDonald's has revealed plans to add a 3rd window to their drive-thrus. The reason for this update is to help speed up service. This change was decided after hearing customer complaints. The first window will collect money, and the other 2 will distribute food. The plan is to have a 3rd window in new and remodeled McDonald's within the next year. We sent our man on the street, reporter Brett Bell, out to see what UM students think about the change.
I think it's good. It'll help speed up service, and I mean, I don't know about everyone else, but I hate waiting in line at McDonald's.
I think with the 3rd window is going to speed things up because, yeah, we really need a 3rd window. Yeah.
I think the 3rd window for McDonald's will be pointless because I don't think it will bypass traffic anyway because people will be like cutting people and stuff like that.
Brett also spoke with the manager of the local McDonald's, and she told him that she had not heard anything about the plans to add a 3rd window.
Even though the weather isn't very telling, the Sigma Tau Delta chili sale is a sign that fall is here and the end of the semester is right around the corner. Falcon Weekly's Jennifer Corona joins us live to tell us all about the annual chili sale. Jennifer?
Around this time every year, the bottom floor of Comer starts to smell like warm, delicious, and most importantly, already made chili. The English Honor Society's chili sale is going on now through Thursday. They are set up on the 1st floor of Comer from 10 in the morning until all of the chili is gone. Different members of Sigma Tau Delta make the chili, and each day, chili types range depending on what each person decides to make. They also have chips or crackers and cheese and sour cream to add on top.
All of the
proceeds go to helping students get into conferences and submit papers to journals and all of that.
The chili costs $4.50 per cup, and they also have drinks for 50 cents. All proceeds go towards the events and writing contests that Sigma Tau Delta participates in. This is Jennifer Corona reporting live for Falcon Weekly.
Thanks, Jennifer. Now it's time for a check of our Montevallo forecast.
Falcon Weekly's Margetta Thomas joins us with a look at this week's weather.
Well, today the high is going to be 70. It's going to be a little bit warm and mostly sunny. No rain or anything today. But if we take a look at the rest of the week, it looks like this is going to be the warmest day of this week. On Tuesday, it's going to get up to about 61 degrees, and it's going to stay in the 60s all the way through Friday. And let's see, it looks like we're going to have some rain starting Thursday, and that's going to continue all through the weekend. And we're going to have some more cold weather. It's going to get down to probably about 28 on Sunday, so it's going to be really cold, but we're not going to have any rain on Sunday because it's going to clear up Saturday night. So you'll be cold, but you'll be dry at the same time. Back to you guys.
Great. Thanks, Margetta.
Thanks, Margetta. Runners in Montevallo are still probably washing chalk out of their clothes after participating in Chi Omega's inaugural color run. Dozens of runners laced up their shoes for the 5K color run Saturday morning. They gathered near the Student Activity Center where clouds of green chalk filled the air to mark the start of the race. The runners made their way around the 5K course while being covered in multicolored chalk. Chi O tells us they raised $6,500, which will go to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Next on Falcon Weekly,
Neil Embry joins us to talk about sports. What do you have for us, Neil?
Well, everybody's talking about the amazing finish to the Auburn-Georgia game this weekend, so we'll have highlights from that game and more sports news coming up.
Great.
Sports is next. Welcome back to Falcon Weekly. I'm Neil Embry with a look at this week's sports. Montevallo's basketball team took on the West Alabama Tigers this weekend in a non-conference game at Trustmark Arena. The Tigers took a 6-3 lead early in the contest, but that would be the lone highlight for West Alabama. UM dominated much of the game, led by junior Shaquem Jackson, who had 20 points, including 4 three-pointers. Montevallo goes on to win 85-67. The Falcons' next match is this Thursday, with a trip to Tuscaloosa to take on Stillman College in another non-conference matchup. Tip-off is set for 7:30 p.m. The volleyball team wrapped up their regular season this Saturday with a 3-0 sweep of UNC Pembroke. Montevallo was led by senior Michelle Carl, who recorded her 1,000th career kill. Montevallo finishes with a record of 19-10 on the season. The Falcons will travel to Francis Marion University for the start of the Peach Belt Conference Tournament Friday. They'll take on Columbus State in the first round at 11 a.m. Shifting gears to softball now, Montevallo has a new head coach. Lindsey Vanover has been announced as the first head coach in the new softball program, which will play its first season in 2015. Vanover comes from Dartmouth College, where she was an assistant coach and recruiting coordinator. Athletic Director Jim Hurley says Vanover will be an excellent fit for a D2 school.
We think not only is she outstanding on the field, from everything that we heard about her as we were going through the process, but she's somebody that was able to articulate the values of Division II, and we think that's going to be really important for us.
To see more of our interview with Director Hurley and for all of your Montevallo sports news, check out Falcon Fever this Wednesday. Moving to college football, they're calling it the Miracle on the Plains. The Auburn Tigers extended their winning streak Saturday with a last-second win over the Georgia Bulldogs. Auburn dominated the first 3 quarters, taking a 34-17 lead on this Nick Marshall touchdown run. Auburn would take a 37-17 lead early in the fourth, but Georgia would storm back, cutting the lead to 6, and senior quarterback Aaron Murray would give Georgia a 1-point lead on this controversial touchdown run. Take another look. The play was reviewed, and officials eventually determined that Murray scored before his knee hit the ground. Auburn was left with one last play. On 4th down, Nick Marshall throws a Hail Mary. Ricardo Lewis is going to catch the ball off the Georgia deflection and score the winning touchdown. Listen to Auburn's radio announcer Rod Bramblett make the call. Auburn gets a much-needed week off after the emotional win. Next up for the Tigers is the annual matchup with Alabama in the Iron Bowl. Kickoff is set for 2:30 p.m. on November 30th. Number 1 Alabama traveled to Starkville, Mississippi this weekend to take on the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Alabama struggled against a very physical Mississippi State defense. The Tide went 4 for 12 on third down and had 4 turnovers. Mississippi State would cut the lead to 3 after recovering their own fumble in the end zone on this play. Tyler Russell loses the ball, and after a fight for the ball, a Mississippi State lineman gets on top of it to score. Bulldog fans were excited, ringing their cowbells, hoping their team could pull off the upset. But Alabama would respond here with a touchdown to Kevin Norwood, giving them a 17-7 lead. The Tide would go on to win the game 20-7. Alabama's next game is this Saturday against Chattanooga. Saturday's game will be the last home game for the Tide seniors. Kickoff is set for 1 p.m. The NASCAR season came to an end on Sunday with the EcoBoost 400. Jimmy Johnson needed to finish 17th or better to claim his 6th title. While Denny Hamlin would win the race, Jimmy Johnson finished 9th, securing the title. Matt Kenseth, the Sprint Cup runner-up, finished 2nd in the race, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. finished 3rd. This is Johnson's 6th championship in 8 seasons, cementing his place in racing history. After the race, Johnson said, "We'll see if I can get 7. Time will tell." Halftime contests such as kicking field goals for tuition or dunking a ball for money are commonplace in sports. But the NBA's Sacramento Kings took it to the next level. The deal was if this mom could hit a half-court shot, she would win a new car. The shot is going to fall well short of the goal. But then, in what may be the greatest consolation prize in sports history, her and her children are surprisingly reunited with their dad, an Air Force officer returning from the Middle East. The officer embraces his children, bringing tears from the crowd. The family would sit courtside and watch the rest of the game together. And that's all the time we have for sports this week.
Thanks, Neil. It sure was a great week for sports. Now, California's cutest Cape Crusader is recovering today after an action-packed Friday in Gotham City.
Yes, exposing his secret identity as 5-year-old Miles Scott, news teams all over the country have been reporting on Bat Kid's dynamic day, all thanks to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. An estimated crowd of 13,000 fans cheered him on as he spent 4 hours in his Batmobile patrolling Gotham City, where he spent the day battling the Riddler and the Penguin, saving damsels in distress, recovering stolen bank loot, and even disabling a bomb. Miles, or Bat Kid, is in remission from leukemia, which he's been battling since he was 18 months old.
So sweet.
Yes.
Now that's all the time we have for this week's show. Thank you so much for joining us.
For more UM news, be sure to check out the Falcon News Network blog. The web address should be on the bottom of your screen. We'll see you again next week.